What's up, everyone? Welcome back to After the Storm. This is the Canes game review for game number 11 of the season, a 2-1 overtime win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Previewing this game, obviously Tampa Bay comes into this one with a bit of a hot start. They did struggle out of the gate, but they're starting to regain their form a little bit. And most notably, the biggest player on the Bolts this season who is regaining his form after probably 3 or 4 seasons where he's been oft injured, out of the lineup, or struggling when he's in it, is their captain, Steven Stamkos. And of course, he'd have a goal in this game. We will get to that later. In other Canes-related news, Josh Leivo, who I'm really excited to actually see hopefully in the lineup soon, was called up to the team before this game. Obviously did not dress for the game, but with the injuries to Niederreiter, it's very possible he's going to end up in the lineup at some point to rotate through, especially given the fact that the team kind of has to make a decision soon on Seth Jarvis. And of course, if you don't know what that means, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to have to figure out if they want to use a year of the entry-level contract of Seth Jarvis this season instead of sending him back to junior, back to the Portland Winterhawks of the Western Hockey League, and otherwise they can get his what is referred to as an ELC slide on his contract and extend his contract just to basically an extra year. Leivo was one of the quietest signings probably the entire offseason for Carolina. Maybe Jalen Chatfield was the other one. Leivo's a really good kind of power forward. I think he would actually slot in very well in this bottom 6 of this team. So I'm excited to see, and hopefully he does get a game here shortly. Freddie Anderson back in the net in this one, and at the other end of the ice, Andrei Vasilevskiy, probably the best goaltender in hockey now. And Freddie was the first goalie to make any waves in this game. He makes a big stop early in the first period off of Corey Perry. Jesper Fast, who I thought was a little quieter in this game, but had a chance here early in the first. A wobbling puck kind of steps into a slap shot with it. I think Jordan Staal actually slid the puck across on a nice pass, but unfortunately it's bobbling. He hits it. Good shot, but unfortunately because of that bobbling, it goes over the net. Something that wasn't shown on the broadcast but was pretty funny is Jordan Martinook went for a hit pretty early on in the first and completely dumped himself into the Tampa bench. I'm not sure who had the picture. It might have been Corey Lavalette but on Twitter. But there's a good picture of literally Martinook's legs just being straight up in the air, and you can't even see his body because he's completely over the boards. Seth Jarvis, who, again, we mentioned off the top, the team's going to have to make a decision on him. He is not making it easy on the Canes to send him back to junior if they end up doing so. He gets a nice shot here. Kind of fools Vasilevskiy, but he gets a piece of it with the glove, and it deflects into the corner. Braden Point, who is, man, what a player he is. Completely found goal, like a second-round pick. How did he slide this far? Maybe a third-round pick. I actually don't know. But, yeah, a guy who's been lights out everywhere he's ever played, really. And in this one, it's a pleasure to watch this guy play hockey. He's so good at controlling the puck. His speed is almost second to none in the league, and that puck control is phenomenal. He gets a shot away, just deflected away by Freddie Anderson, who is having a solid start to this game. Carolina would take the first penalty of the game. Aho would trip up Eric Chernak and send Tampa Bay to the power play. Corey Perry would take a holding the stick penalty during this power play. He was pretty uneventful otherwise anyways, but he would negate the power play. We had to do a little bit of 4-on-4. I think it was only about 2 seconds before the Canes ended up with the power play. Just one really notable chance on this power play for Carolina, a one-timer from Teuvo Teravainen. Tampa's doing a really good job at killing the penalty so far in this game. Vasilevskiy, of course, if you're not screening him, if you're not really beating him with a perfect shot, you're not going to beat this guy any day of the week. Jan Ruda would end up taking a hooking penalty in what was a very terrible game for Jan Ruda in this one. Sebastian Aho, who came off a rough game against the Florida Panthers where he was kind of missing nets and missing pucks, kind of continued it early on in this game where he had really 2 prime chances and he whiffed on both of them. And the penalty parade starts. I feel like we've had 1 game so far this season. I'm trying to remember back to the Islanders game to open up the season, but really this other than the Arizona game that was 2-1 as well, there really wasn't any games that there hasn't been just a ton of penalties called in. Brendan Smith gets called for an interference penalty toward the end of the first on Alex Killorn. I thought that was kind of a weak call, but again, I've mentioned those ticky-tack plays. I just hate them. This is definitely one I wouldn't call again anyways if I was any ref in any league. This was not a good penalty to call. But nevertheless, it's going to send Tampa back to the power play. And in the midst of the kill, we're going to end the first period. A very tight opening 20 minutes. We head to the second period, tied 0-0. Carolina would end up killing off the Brendan Smith interference penalty. And then Frederik Andersen would really make his presence known. And this would pretty much be his biggest save up until maybe the third period when he had to start getting back in. On just a side note, man, do the Carolina Hurricanes ever love outplaying a team more than they love outplaying the Tampa Bay Lightning for whatever reason? They've done it for like the 3 seasons I've been kind of doing these Canes game reviews for. Like the first game, like the first Tampa game I covered doing in the first season of this, like they held Tampa to like no shots for like 35 minutes or something. It was stupid. It was so stupid. And they kind of did it here again. Like the shots at one point were like 10 to 25 or 28 or something. They really can outplay this team. Anyways, Frederik Andersen comes across, one save, kind of out of position, has to scramble back. Kind of a, spread eagle with the glove up. He gets it, stops Andre Palat on a very nice save. One of the nicest saves Freddie's made all season. Jan Rutta would continue right after this save. His bad game. He puts the puck over the glass. Belmar would end up going off for cross-checking pretty early into this penalty kill for the Tampa Bay Lightning, sending the Canes to a 5-on-3. And I don't know, especially this season, I don't think I've screamed at a TV harder than this 5-on-3. Off the draw, a one-timer from, I think it was D'Angelo, ends up getting blocked by Ryan McDonough, and it hurts him real bad. Like, to the point McDonough can't get up. He's hurt that bad. He eventually does get up, and he just powers through the shift because he can't really change because we're in the second period. It's a long change. He doesn't have the option of just skating to the blue line. He's got to skate to the other blue line, or just past the other red line, I should say, in the neutral zone to get a change if he wants to get off, and he's not moving fast anyways. So he's hobbled over. There's a shot that comes through from the point, and it knocks the skate blade out of Andrei Vasilevsky's skate. So now you have Ryan McDonough's already hurt. Andrei Vasilevsky's playing on one leg. This is essentially a 5-on-2. And the Canes just stare at Andrei Vasilevsky during all of this. Like, again, I don't think I've yelled at the TV more. I can't believe they only got one shot away on this. Absolutely ridiculous. Eventually, Hedman gets the puck. He directs it to Vasilevsky, who can cover up, go get his skate fixed. Tampa's going to kill off the 5-on-3. It's just bizarre. They should have scored. They absolutely should have scored. And right after this, again, this is a big momentum swing. This is one of these things that the team has to get better with. I think they have to improve heading towards what is probably going to be a team you see in the playoffs, most likely. They need to improve on their momentum swings because sometimes this team can really let a momentum swing hit them very hard. I think this season they've been great at it so far. But this seemed like a time where the game was really going to swing Tampa's direction and they wouldn't look back. Matthew Joseph ends up walking off the half boards, gets the puck back, and finds a wide open Steven Stamkos. Freddie kind of overplayed his hand on this play. Stammer's got a wide open net, and the Bolts lead 1-0. So Stammer gets his 7th of the season. There's a couple criticisms I'd have on this play. One, I think Freddie's kind of had this problem in the last few games, especially the Florida game. He had this issue a lot. Just, overcommitting to a play. Something he wasn't doing the first 6 or 7 games of the season, but he's starting to do a little bit more now. And the other one is Vincent Trocheck on this play is literally just puck watching. That's all he's doing. He's just looking at the puck. He makes zero effort until the puck is way past him to try and deflect. He's not really looking at a passing lane. Everybody's kind of lost Stamkos behind them. This is an easy goal for Stamkos. He's not going to miss a wide open net like that. So, yeah, down 1-0 after that flurry of a 5-on-3 chance. Ethan Bear would head off with a slashing penalty, sending Tampa back to the power play. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it feels like this momentum swing where the game's going to completely get away from Carolina. But Carolina does excellent on this penalty kill. Jesper Fast with a beautiful shorthanded chance just gets stopped. Actually, I'm not even sure if he got stopped on this play. I think Braden Point actually comes back and pulls the puck basically off the line, or out of the crease, I should say, on this play, which stops a sure goal because Jesper Foss continues to be such a good player. I think he was pretty quiet outside of the first chance in this game with the slap shot that goes over the net. In this shorthanded play, he was very quiet in this one. But he's been a player that has been a lot better this year, and something I really wasn't expecting this season. Carolina would kill off this penalty, but immediately after, Anthony Cirelli gets a breakaway chance. He gets stopped by Frederik Andersen, and on the rebound, Andre Palat's coming in, crashing the net. Freddie gets that one too. Big saves by Freddie, keeping the Canes in this one. Svechnikov throws a hard hit on Ryan McDonough. On the broadcast, this was talked about as a very clean hit, and I think the hit itself was clean. I think it broke a different rule than we're talking about with a hit. I thought this was a boarding penalty, and it's very lucky that Svechnikov didn't get called on it. It's a hit that is, 3 or 4 feet off the boards, and the player ends up into the boards. It's the very definition of boarding. So I like the hit. I like the physicality from Svech. I just hope that if this, continues, he doesn't end up in the box for plays like this in the future. Ethan Bear and Matthew Joseph end up getting penalties. There go 4-on-4. And toward the end of the period, before we'd go back to 5-on-5, Victor Hedman would end up with a breakaway. He'd end up missing the net, or maybe Freddie got a little bit of a piece of it. I think that's kind of what happened here, but it looked very close, and in real time, it looked like Hedman missed the net wide. And that'll do it for the second period. Tampa Bay heads to the third period with a 1-0 lead. And early on in the third, the Carolina Hurricanes really started surging in this one. The Aho line combines for a few chances. Aho ends up with a one-timer. Svechnikov had a chance here, but they all get stopped by Andrei Vasilevsky. Braden Point ended up with a chance from the high slot where he kind of shoots it and it, knuckle pucks. And somehow this puck, as you were watching it on the broadcast, it looked like this thing is oh God, look at this thing drop right underneath the bar. Look at Tampa get all this damn puck luck. And somehow, some way, this puck ends up hitting the crossbar. The Canes clear the crease, and the puck luck kind of goes Carolina's way on this one. That's a huge, huge turn in this game because I think at that point goal would have been a complete burial. And then a weird play ends up happening where it looked like a Carolina player was getting called for a penalty, and then somehow it just ends up being Stamkos going to the box. Not really sure what ends up really happening on this play, but Stamkos ends up in the box. He complains about it the whole way too. And then on the ensuing power play, Svechnikov finds Trocheck down low. Trocheck feeds it over perfectly, finds Teuvo Teravainen, and he buries it. We got a tie game midway through the third. Steven Lorentz would end up with a couple solid chances as the fourth line continues to be quite effective. He gets a redirect chance, a nice stop by Vasilevsky on that one, and then another nice play from Jacob Slavin where the kind of a shot pass finds its way to Lorentz, but he gets stopped again by Vasilevsky. Trocheck would end up going to the box for tripping. Carolina would end up killing this one off. A very uneventful power play for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Frederik Andersen would make a big stop in the dying seconds of regulation. I think there was only three or so seconds, and again, a guy he just continued to rob all night. Andre Palat was on the receiving end of another stifling chance from Frederik Andersen. And we end regulation 1-1. We're going to head to overtime for the first time this season. Carolina has finished every single game in regulation so far this season. Game number 11 is the first one of overtime. So we're going to head there 1-1 for some 3-on-3. And to kick off overtime, Stahl wins the draw and immediately gets off the ice, just like he always does. Aho nearly finds Marty Necas in behind, and almost like a completely identical goal to last season that Necas pulled off against the Tampa Bay Lightning a few times. Anthony Cirelli would have a chance. He ends up kind of getting bowled over at the end, but Freddie makes the big stop on this one. And back down the other way, Brady Shea comes in on the right side and kind of just lets a wrister go. It gets through Vasilevsky. It appears the Canes have won the game, and it gets challenged by, I believe it wasn't Tampa, I think it was the league office ended up reviewing it, or maybe the officials on the ice reviewed it. Turns out that Trocheck on the far side of the ice was offside, so we have no goal on the play. Overtime continues, and right away, a weird play where Freddie Andersen kind of comes way too far out of his net, and on the way through it, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare ends up just hitting Freddie in the head. And again, we don't want to see this at the best of times, but with Antti Ranta already down, we got a big problem here. Freddie was slow to get up, but he appears to be fine. He looks like he's all good, and as I look ahead to game previews for the Friday night tilt against the Flyers, it appears he'll be the starter. Freddie would make another stop on Anthony Cirelli as we head towards the end of the overtime period. And at the other end, a phenomenal, individual effort. Marty Necas coming down, swings to his offside, throws a wrister through. It finds its way through. What a snipe by Marty Necas. He calls game, and the Canes win 2-1 in overtime against the Tampa Bay Lightning. All right, so let's get to some good players. Again, this is a great win against a very, very good team. Again, obviously, this is a team that beat us out in the playoffs. I feel like it wasn't that long ago. It doesn't feel that long ago. It was probably about 5 months, but yeah, it feels good. It does. It feels good to beat Tampa. It's a team you have to prove yourself against. We did it already with the Bruins. We've now done it with Tampa. I think there's probably some other teams that you could argue they've done it against as well this season. But let's get on to some good players. Let's start with Marty Necas. I thought he's been effective these last 3 games. He's been phenomenal. What a puck carrier, a fantastic skater, generates so much offense just by being himself. Seth Jarvis, I know I didn't mention him much in this video, but he had another solid game. He just makes the right plays. And that's for a guy who's 19 or 20 years old. That's the most important thing at this time, is that the maturity he's been showing since he's got here has been amazing. He looks like he's been in the NHL for years. He's making so many nice plays. Again, I want to see him on the top line. I do. He kind of rose up during this game. It appears he's going to be back on the 4th line against the Philadelphia Flyers. But man, I want to see him on the 1st line. And I thought Freddie, again, a very strong game, coming off a very rough game against the Florida Panthers. He came back very strong in this one. A phenomenal win for him. Some players in this one. Again, Svechnikov. I just thought he had an average game. Nothing really bad that stood out to me. Just an average game from him. And another one I thought was quite average to leaning toward the bad scale was Ethan Bear in this one. He seems like he's lost a bit of a step that he started the season with, and I'm not sure if that's due to the line shuffling because of Brett Pesce being out of the lineup, but it seems like Bear's a little bit of a step behind right now. And again, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. Not yet, at least. But otherwise, Bear's been solid. He's been a very good contributor for this team. It's just, I think he's settling into a system, and sometimes with some players, and I think dynamic players on the back end, it takes a little bit of time. I think D'Angelo's been kind of a weird outlier for that role. Usually it takes an offensive D-man in Rod's system a little bit of time. It took Jake Gardner a little bit of time, and then he got injured before he started really clicking. So I think it'll take Bear a little bit of time, but he's going to get it. He's a guy who's looks like he's going to figure this all out. And for bad players, I had none. I don't think anybody played bad in this game. Everybody was solid. And to highlight a Tampa player, let's highlight Andrei Vasilevskiy, probably the best goaltender in hockey right now. I think he's number 1. For me, second is Carey Price. I know a lot of people would probably laugh at that, but I mean, look at what he did last year in the playoffs. We don't know how he's going to be this year when he does eventually return to playing with the Canadiens, but he's been solid. And Vasilevskiy, I think, has taken that number 1 crown away from him. And Vasilevskiy, man, he's so good. He's so fast. He's so good in the butterfly. He's so damn big, too. He's just the best that you could possibly want in a goaltender. Anyways, guys, that wraps up this episode for the 2-1 overtime win against Tampa. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up down below. Apparently, YouTube has gotten rid of the dislike button, so not that I would ever tell you to hit that, but apparently it's not there anymore. If you have some thoughts on the game, drop them in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well and hit that notification bell so you can get the videos as soon as they upload. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one.